4246-4, discussion and action, South Kingstown School Committee versus NEASK. CA number WM 203-20404, Rhode Island General Law 4246-5A2, litigation.
To go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passed. Yeah, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:11 with an apology for our overextended. Um. Again, I'd like to apologize for our executive session running over. It is 7:11. And I will call this meeting to order. Bradley Share, Mr. Bradley Share is not with us tonight. Mr. James Restivo. Miss Calvetta,
Here.
Miss Melissa Boyd,
Here.
Miss Kate Massinensi,
Here.
Miss Michelle Russo,
Here.
and myself, Paula Whitford, here. Please join us to the pledge of allegiance of the flag. Have a motion to seal the minutes in executive session.
Make a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. There were no votes taken in the executive session tonight. Next on the agenda is community comments.
The closure of two schools. Now, this $1.5 million. This happened after you had passed the 23-24 budget back in, a year ago, April. Or in April, so and that budget was based on 404 FTE being employed in the district. Now, the last number I saw since school began is like 397, somewhere around there. But there's 13, you say you lost 13 positions here. This district unfortunately has like a shell game with FTE. So the 2022-23 budget was based on 442 people, but the most we ever had employed here was 426. Now, this year's budget was based on 404. You say you've lost 13 people. Is that 13 people from 404? Where is the 13 people come from? But the issue is this $1.5 million, all of it, been adjusted in this year's budget? Transportation. I'm guessing that I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing that the majority of juniors and seniors that go to the high school drive themselves to school. I may be wrong, but I'm thinking you see a lot of cars here, you know, a lot of students are driving to school now. But we have a three-tiered bus system. We have buses that feed just the high school. We have buses that go to the junior high. So you don't have the high school and junior high students on the same buses, right? Okay, then you have elementary school. But if the predominance of our juniors and seniors in high school are not on those buses, I don't see that going forward. There should be an issue of having mostly 9th and 10th graders with the 6th through 8th graders that are going to the middle school. There's savings to be done there. That's how Charahoe does it. You shouldn't have separate buses, I don't believe, for junior, senior high, when the majority of your upperclassmen are probably not taking the buses. And secondly, you can always stack your buses as far as seats. You know, the younger kids are sit up front. That's how, and the older kids are in the back. Homeschool request. Homeschool in your enrollment updates. I think it would help to have the number of homeschool students added to that list, so that I don't think it's on there now. So the number of students that are homeschooled for this school year would be good to have them on there. It'd also be good to have them separated by grade, and the same thing for our students that are going out of district to charter schools and high schools, that you show not just the total number of students that they're out of district, but what grades they're in, so that when you look at the entire enrollment chart, we can know where they go, where they are now. And the 24, when this year's per pupil expenditure chart comes out in a year and a half, it's going to show for the first time that South Kingstown has the highest per cost to out of district tuition in the state. We'll have taken the #1 position over Central Falls. That's not something that that's not a good metric. And I think the last thing I wanted to say was just one second. Oh yeah, okay. So we've lost about 190 students from last year. I've contacted Prout, I've contacted Monsignor Clark, Hendricken, to try and find out how many of our students are going to those schools. There's not that many, to be honest with you. There's only 22 high school students enrolled in Prout from South Kingstown this year. So it begs the question, where did these 190 students go? Now, maybe the homeschooled numbers are way up. I know the total, I think the total between charter and high school is up like maybe 15, not quite 20, maybe not that much. I think it would if I was on this committee, I would ask the superintendent to maybe get a hold of NESDEC, your demographer, and have them find out where these students went. It's a good it's because I don't know where they've gone. 190 students. That's the highest number of students dropped in enrollment in this town's history. You have to, you need to find out what happened. Because if they're just going out of town because their parents have moved out of town and the kids are going with them. We should know that. You should know if that's happening here, because that's, you're trying to right size your high school and everything. And I would want to know why that's happening.
Those community comments and move on to our consent agenda.
Paula, can I interrupt real quick? I'd like to table approval of meeting minutes to our next meeting because there's been a little bit of a snafu with some of the meeting minutes. So if we can wait until next meeting to approve those. I make that motion.
All right, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. So we need a motion on the table to approve the consent agenda from item B to D.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items B, C, and D.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Next, an item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. I'll pass that over to Mr. Littlefield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item I would draw your attention to is the personnel action report. You'll notice there are a couple of leaves of absence there. There are a couple of additions there. I made the decision after consulting with the principal and staff at West Kingston Elementary School, that given the number of students there and the I want to say the number of social and emotional issues that have arisen there at the school among students and their families. We agreed to bring on board an additional social worker to put them on par with other elementary schools. That social worker position would be a 1-year only position, and that we would pay for that, not out of the operating budget, but out of ESSER 3 funds, so that we have that covered. Also, we're looking to add a supervisory aide at the school to aid in lunchroom supervision and recess supervision. I will draw your attention. It didn't make the personnel action report because we were actually still in negotiations at the time. But I am happy to report that we have secured the services of a new chief financial officer. I look forward to introducing him to you at our next meeting. But we did the search. We checked references. We had multiple discussions. I want to thank our interim CFOs, Mr. Crowley and Mr. Ferrucci, for their input on this. Is it appropriate to mention the gentleman's name now? He'll be okay with it, I guarantee. He has notified he has notified his current employer. We have agreed on a start date on the Monday after Thanksgiving, which will give him time in his current community to finish up with their audit preparations. But the gentleman's name is Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a resident of Charlestown. He is an honor graduate in accounting from the University of Rhode Island. He has municipal finance experience working on the town side in the community of Portsmouth. He's had accounting experience in the private sector, in the defense industries. And he's very anxious to join us here and to join our team in South Kingstown. And I might add that that we settled on a contract with Mr. Fitzpatrick just in time before another community settled on a contract with him. So I look forward to introducing him to you at our next meeting. I also want to mention that that on the personnel action form, you'll notice that there is a leave of absence there for the principal at West Kingston Elementary School. And I do want to let the committee know that I have secured the services of 2 retired South Kingstown principals who are going to share the duties of this for this leave of absence. I was at the school this afternoon and met with the faculty and staff and explained to them the situation, and that on Wednesday of this week, Ms. Deborah Zepp, former principal at Matunic School, will be filling in at West Kingston. She'll be there until the Veterans Day long weekend, and after that, Ms. Susan Martin, former principal at Peacedale Elementary School, will fill in from then until the remainder of the leave. And I know both of these principals very well, and I'm really confident that they're going to do a good job and serve West Kingston Elementary in a way that they deserve. And lastly, I just want to point out, I was here on Thursday evening. I had the privilege of attending the high school showcase, and I really want to commend Principal Chip McGare and Assistant Principal Angela Christina, and all of the staff and all of the students, the dozens and dozens of people who were here to showcase our programs and showcase all the things that we do for our students at South Kingstown. For me, it was really inspiring, I have to tell you, to walk the halls of this school and see kids who were so proud to show off to prospective students and prospective parents the programs that we have, the learning opportunities that we have, everything from our carpentry program, our drama, our CNA, our EMT preparation programs. Our guidance staff was here. It was a great night, and they deserve to be congratulated for a successful night. That concludes my superintendent's report.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Littlefield? Ms. Boyd?
To thank our administrative staff quickly for giving us an update and a report on this. I think it's really important to the community to hear these updates. And also to thank you for being present at that event on Thursday evening. I think that's very important as a parent of a high schooler as well, to see our school leadership there and supporting the students. So thank you for an additional few hours in your day for being present for that as well.
Lisa,
I'll make motion to accept the superintendent's report.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. Next item on the agenda is school committee business. Discussion and action on the budget and finance subcommittee updates. I will pass that over to Ms. Massananti.
I'm not sure it needs its own agenda item because items B and C really made up the whole budget subcommittee meeting that we reviewed the fiscal year 23 audit, and we reviewed the fiscal year 24 budget update, which we have in front of us. We had a nice robust conversation to make sure that our numbers were correct and that what was being presented was proper. Ms. Pellerin was in attendance so that she could lend a voice and communicate and coordinate with our sitting interim CFOs and Mr. Littlefield. And so there's not much more to report outside of what's going to be discussed in B and C. Unless
and we were able to hear at budget subcommittee from Mr. Ferrucci and Mr. Crowley on FY 23 and 24 respectively. I believe we have Mr. Ferrucci who's ready to zoom in and can kind of give you the highlights of his presentation to the subcommittee on Wednesday, and he would be able to answer any questions that the members of the full committee may have for him.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Can everyone hear me
Are
fine?
we able to make that possible?
I'm here and speaking. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? My mic is on. Hello? Hello? My mic is on.
Ms. Fruit is okay. Can you keep talking, Mr. Ferrucci?
Happy to. I have my mic on.
Was that
Good
him?
evening.
Yes.
Good
that was it.
evening. Can you hear me now? I feel like the telephone commercial.
It's never been a problem for Mr. Ferrucci to keep talking.
Can you hear Mr. Littlefield?
Can you hear me
Can
now?
you use some sass?
Hello? Hello?
Read us a
Hello?
story. That's all right. I can keep talking as well, if anybody's met me.
How about
Can I
now?
talk? I'm. Mr. Ferrucci, can you talk?
I'm trying. My mic is on. Can you hear me? Can you
We can
hear me?
see that you're talking, but we cannot hear you at the moment.
Okay, but my mic is on.
Keep talking.
I'm
Can't see
trying.
That's
I'm
fine.
running out of words.
We're working hard. Or we're not.
I
He
see
is.
him. I see him moving wires.
We hear you.
You can?
Oh.
Better? We still on? Can you hear me now?
Oh, beautiful. We can hear you now.
All right. I feel like a telephone commercial.
There you go.
All
You're
right, fantastic. Well, first I want to say that I'm honored to be with South Kingston during this tumultuous time with all of the turnover that you're experiencing. You've got a wonderful staff in the administrative office that are trying really hard to be ready to turn things around pretty rapidly once you get leadership back. So it's been an honor to work with them as well. We did go extensively into the report at the budget committee meeting last week. It was very informative, and we've come up with one plan that we have to take a look at. But my report, to cut to the chase, was broken into 3 pieces. It was an update as to where we are with the audit. I have been in contact with your auditors. We are on the right track to be able to have the report completed on time and delivered when it's due by the end of December 31st. The district's business office was really tied down when your accounting manager left on February 1st, and not much was done on the accounting side from February through June as the transition went through. Your payroll person became the accounting manager, didn't start until July 1st. So there was a lot of backlog work. But the auditors are on board, and I'm assisting them through the process. My background, just quick gratification: 10 years Coventry Public School CFO, 10 years Warwick Public School CFO, 2 years Bristol Warren. I went in as a consultant in the last couple of years of my just prior to retiring. And I also had some opportunities to work at a charter school for about 18 months, assisting them in their startup. So I've got extensive background in public school administration. And the auditors are well on their way. The start from my position was to review all the grants and make sure the grant information was accurate in the general ledger and budgets, et cetera. For your notes, there's extensive reports of what we went over, what I went through, what we found, et cetera. I'll leave it to you. If there's questions, happy to answer those. But the general consensus is broken down, showing the number of grants, the dollars that were appropriated, what was budgeted, and how much was spent. We did come up with 2 items that were written into grants, and it was a reclass. So there's going to impact what the school committee was told back on August 28th as to where your position is. So the grants was this first piece that said if it doesn't fit in the grant, it has to go back to general fund. And then the last portion of the report gives you an overview of what was reported initially to the school committee on the 28th of August, and with the adjustments that were being made. And after our meeting, we've got some further homework on a couple of the items. We will resolve that. I did reach out and speak with, emailed Raquel today and updated her as to what we found, and we're supposed to come to resolution by the middle of the week. What will happen is by the end of the week, I hope to be able to finish the final adjustments and then release this to the town auditors, at which point they will be validating. And so this information I have before you is what will be under audit. And I tried to keep it succinct and to the point. So I gave you the highlights of both the grants and the general fund. And ultimately, I know it's a sensitive topic, but it is what it is. And so it's on the table. The unrestricted fund balance, where it ended last year, and the transfer of funds from the operating account to the capital fund, that was reported to you. What I'm showing you is the net result of unrestricted funds with the adjusted entries going through that will add about $294,000, possibly as low as $230,000, depending on one particular transaction. And you'll end up with a fund balance in the neighborhood of $2.9 million of unrestricted funds. That will be something the auditor will again audit and be reporting out to the town council at some point when they release the budget. So I wanted to inform you folks, and that's why we spent most of our energy at the last meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's why I'm here this evening. And in the future, if there's any further questions, email me directly or route them through the superintendent, and I'm happy to respond to you. And I'm very excited for you, for the new candidate you have coming on board. I think you're extremely fortunate for a district. Many districts are struggling to find qualified candidates, and to have a candidate of the caliber and personal desire is great. And I think you got great things coming from that particular slot in the near future. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Ferrucci, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I just did a check to see if there were any questions and I was missing it because it got very
Okay.
quiet.
well, I think folks are digesting what you have presented. I just wanted to ask, given the confusion about the grants and in particular the out of district tuitions and assigning things properly to grants or to the operating budget. Has it been your experience to see that there are people in central office who have that as a specific responsibility to keep track of the administration of grants, to see to it that invoices are received and bills are paid and that they are assigned to the right funding source, given that we have a number of grants to keep track of? So
Yes, actually, it has been. One of the items that we discussed at the budget committee meeting was what I believe when I was looking at how it was that there was appropriation of $5.5 million worth of grant monies and only 1.8 reported spent. And if we had 200,000, it'd be about $2 million. And what I came across was that the leadership of grants, whether it be in the superintendent's office or kind of was assigned, but nobody could tell me who was responsible for it. My other districts had a lead person who was the curriculum focused, professional development focused leader of the district, be it the assistant superintendent, or in the case of Warwick, where we actually had a professional development curriculum office. But they were the ones that coordinated the grants. And they also had a staff person who was the liaison between the district and the program leadership for administering the grants. And they worked with the accounting office, making sure that information was getting into the accounting office on a timely manner so that the accounting office can sustain the records properly and correctly. And so much confusion that I heard in talking with folks over the last 2 to 3 years has contributed to some of the errors that we picked up. Simple little things such as once a grant's approved down the road, you get an amendment that's approved, it changes, that communication has to get into the accounting office and they post it in the system. It's a lot of work, but splitting it up to the person who's responsible for leading that discussion and understanding the program, that's a critical piece. That person understands the program use of those resources. And so they can assure it aligns with the grant, but then they also make sure that the funds are spent appropriately. And if they have a staff person, they make sure it's charged to the grant. Those kinds of activities were done by an individual duly designated who was aligned with your program person. I know South Kingston School Department doesn't have an assistant superintendent or hadn't had it, but currently has an interim. If you don't have a curriculum leader, whether it be a curriculum leader or an assistant super, I think that discussion's imperative to take place, and then have a support person to take care of the grants. It will maximize the use of your efficiencies of the resources in your district.
I appreciate hearing that from you, Tony, both in the subcommittee and now, and I think it just drives home what we're currently experiencing. As you point out, we currently have an interim super and interim assistant super at the moment, but for 5 years, we've not had an assistant super since 2019, right? So, and I believe that just kind of seals what we feel already as far as moving forward. We're going to, that position is extremely vital, yes, and necessary. And then going forward, how they manage that and the support staff around it would, obviously hashed out between our central office admin with our new CFO. But it just drives home that it's a vital position that we need to make sure that we bring on board. So thank you. procedurally and clarification wise, we're just accepting this. There's no action necessary on this.
I don't think that there's any action necessary. It's just informational. Mr. Ferrucci is here to just give you the sort of the last best update before all of our 23 budget is submitted for the audit, right?
Great.
That is correct.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Perchi? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is FY 24 update.
Thank you, Rep. And Madam Chair, I've asked Mr. Crowley, our yes, this is quite a title, our interim chief financial officer who has been working on our FY 24 budget to bring us give us an update on the status of the 24 budget. I would like to really thank Mr. Ferrucci for all that he has done for us. It's been just a learning experience for me, and just really enjoyable to work with Tony. Mr. Crowley.
I too would like to thank Tony because he's going to make my work a lot easier. What he's done over the last number of months is to go through the trenches in terms of what happened last fiscal year. That's information that I need in order to take a look at the 24 budget and say, okay, this is what was budgeted in 1924 for 2024. This is what happened in 2023. This is what was budgeted. This is what actually was spent, which is all of the work that Tony has done, so that, when you're taking a look at it in terms of budgets, it's like, okay, what is a realistic number to put down here? Just one example, electricity this past year was like $30,000 over what was budgeted. So now my job is to go through and take a look at all of the various accounts within the district and say, okay, why did this happen? Was it something that happened in terms of it wasn't budgeted properly to begin with? Is there something happening in the district, in one of the schools, for whatever reason, the electricity is way beyond what it should be? So there's several thousand accounts, and basically over the next several weeks, my job is to go through all of them and figure out what happened in 23, what was budgeted, what was spent. We budgeted in 24 at a reasonable rate. And at that point, if it's not, we can come to you for adjustments and clean it up so that over the course of the year, we have to ask for fewer and fewer adjustments, because the numbers that we have in front of us are pretty solidly built in. And in terms of the Tony being here, I too am happy to be here. I've been around for a while. Most of my career was as a principal director of career centers, but at one point I was a school business manager. After I retired, which was about 15, 16 years ago, they could not find business managers. So the reference to Ryan coming here, how lucky you are that you found somebody in the time that you did, because I've been in about 11 different districts in the state and one out of state. In one, I was there for 7 months before they were able to find somebody to fill the job. So the idea is, be very happy. And Tony and I and Bob would, interviewed this gentleman. He seems top notch. He seems like a good fit. He seems like somebody who the staff is going to be able to work with very, very comfortably. And so going forward, we're hoping things will be very good for the South Kingstown kids, because that's why we're all here. If anybody has any questions about the 24 budget, as I say, at this point, that's a work in progress, to make sure that that's as clean as it can be. Because very soon, coming up shortly after Ryan gets here, he's going to be looking at 25. So unless he has some good solid numbers to work with, if he doesn't have, it's going to make his job much more difficult. So my job is to see to it that he has the best numbers that he can have in terms of going into 25.
Better.
So I know we talked about this in the subcommittee meeting, but I just wanted to reiterate that when we passed the 2024 budget, it was with certain contingencies. We were told that it would come back to this table with those changes made, and it didn't. So our expectation would be then to have those changes made in budget amendments. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that these budget amendments are sorely needed. Thank you.
And those are the kinds of things where if I see that X number of dollars has been budgeted for the 24, or had been budgeted for 23, and very little was spent, then something went on there. That, why did that happen? What are these various anomalies as you go through the red flags that you see, where there's not a very good matchup between what was budgeted and what was spent? Figure out all of that, figure out, what probably should have been budgeted, and take a look at what happens in the 24 budget and see how that matches up. And if it doesn't match the way it should, then make adjustments in the 24 budget so that in fact it does fit.
Do you foresee coming to us with any budget amendments for FY 24 before the switch over to the new CFO?
What was that question, Ann, please?
Do you foresee coming to us with any budget amendments for FY 24 before the new CFO takes over?
Practically, I'd say probably yes, at some point, because of the fact that it's exactly what we're talking about here. There were things that have been budgeted in 23. So I got to look at to see how that relates to what's budgeted in 24. If in fact the thing wasn't needed at all, then, and it's budgeted in 24, then you want it out. You want to take the monies and put them in better places. So there's a very good possibility that there will be some amendments.
I don't have a question, just a thank you to both you and Tony for stepping in when we needed people. And for working through this in last week's meeting, and then again presenting to us tonight. And just making sure that we're going to be in a great transitional place when Mr. Fitzpatrick comes on for us. And I appreciate the details that you all have put together for us, and then hopefully we can move forward in a productive way.
We're hoping, and I'd like to thank you all, and and thank Bob too for for the invitation to come down and work, because it has been interesting and I enjoy working. So there's been plenty of work to do. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion and action on the school building committee update.
Making me work tonight. Actually, I would say the only update we have for the school building committee. So let's see, we did have a meeting on Thursday so that we could prep for tomorrow night's workshop. That is going to be tomorrow, October 24th. 6 p.m. start in the town council chambers, joint School Committee, Town Council, and School Building Committee. Left Field, our Owners Project team, plus Studio Jade with Mr. Phil Conti will be in attendance. The bulk of the information, if I'm not mistaken, will be coming from the town, and they have a myriad of questions that they're going to be running at us. And Brian Sylvia, the town finance officer, and Luke Murray, the deputy town manager, will be carrying the lion's share of information, but Left Field and so Chris Spiegel from Left Field, I think Jim Rogers from Left Field, and Phil Conti from Studio Jade will be there to answer any questions, clarifying, and just kind of as support for both Brian and us. I'm trying to remember, the meeting was relatively quick. Mr. Conti did come forward with a new draft of what the high school layout would look like with a reduced footprint from 150. They got it down to 143. I'm talking square feet now, 143,000 square feet. It was at 150,000 square feet. And so he will have those plans on site here. He will have them printed out. So folks who do come and see will be able to take a peek at, and again, it's a generalized plan. They left the athletic facility intact. There is wiggle room with contingencies and some numbers kind of build up for inflation over time. But they're going to get into all the details, and we're going to be able to have a really nice, robust conversation with the town and with everybody who's basically playing a factor. Other than that, they pretty much kind of pre-presented to us on Thursday. Again, our meetings are all live streamed on YouTube. We do have an updated website now, SKSchoolproject.com. But tomorrow night really will be where we're going to hear most of the information and be able to have good quality conversation around the plans, and to hopefully support having a bond for the community to vote for up to $150 million for this project.
So in the reduction of the size of the school, did they reduce the auditorium at all? Do you know?
They right-sized the number from 750 to 725. They did the same thing with the gymnasium, because that was the number that we're shooting is projected of the enrollment. So they matched it to the enrollment. And we'll get into detail tomorrow, but one of the major points when it came to the community spaces, in particular, the gym, the auditorium, and then of course the athletic complex, was their community spaces. And so we're not just building it to fit our children, we're also building it to fit our community resources that utilize that. We can hear the Wakefield concert band practicing right now, and they make use of our auditorium regularly. So,
Well, and I know we have a 742 seat auditorium currently, and I was really hoping that we would at least keep it at 742.
Yeah.
725 is not that much smaller, but I'd like to see it stay at current size if we could.
the level of refinement like that, I believe, takes place over the course of stage 3. And so there are buffers and contingencies that are being built into the project, and those conversations will just continue. At this point, it's really just a refinement of things so that we can get this bond out to the people so that people can vote.
Any further questions? Okay, I would just like to thank all our interim CFOs for doing all the work and helping us to move forward in regards to our budget. Mr. Littlefield, it's Myers, thank you for your work. And with that, if we could have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
See you all tomorrow.
Aye, that motion passes.